for lesson 3, we'll be talking about measurement conversions. So this is when we use rates to convert between units, like feet to inches, or we can talk about grams to kilograms, ounces to pounds. We're going to actually skip this first example. You are welcome to do it on your own. It is on your notes, but we're going to skip it for the sake of time. So let's get started. Using rates and ratios, we can convert measurements within the same system. So that means either the metric system or the imperial system. And that's what we use here in the United States, is the imperial system. The metric system is very common for other countries as well as for science classes. So you will see those metric system units. It is possible to convert between these two, but we will not be doing that in 6th grade math. All right, so some other examples, I did say these already: inches to feet, grams to kilograms, ounces to pounds. What we can do with these is actually represent them with a ratio table, or if you'd rather, a proportion. Personally, I prefer the proportion. I prefer to solve using the proportion. If you'd like to use a ratio table, that is always an option. Another thing to keep in mind here right before we start is that it's very important to know the number that's going to get you between the two units. Sort of like a conversion factor, what you're going to need to multiply or divide with. I have included one of those in your notes, and you'll be able to find it at the very end of all of your notes, is the reference sheet. If you cannot find it, it is also posted to our Google Classroom. All right, so we have example 1. We're going to set up the unit rates, and we're going to solve for the missing quantities. I'm going to give you any of the conversion factors that you might need. So Joan is 66 inches tall. What is Joan's height in feet? So that tells me that I'm changing from inches to feet. So I need to know, how do I convert between inches and feet? And that number you think of is 12. So you could say 12 inches, 1 foot. Notice that I put the 1 on the bottom. That is because we're talking about a unit rate, and we want to make sure the 1 is on the bottom. Would it matter if you flipped it upside down on accident? No, but it is a standard way to write it. So I recommend that you get yourself in that habit instead of kind of flipping back and forth. Now, Joan's height is 66 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in on the top because it matches inches over here. All right, now we got to see how to get between these. The question is, how do I get from 12 to 66? I know that 12 times 5 is 60. And I know that 12 times 6 is 72. But 66 is like smack in the middle of those, right? So if we were to do division, we could see what this is going to be. So 5 times, we get 60. Subtract, we get 6. I'm going to add a decimal and a 0. 12 goes into 60. 5 times again. Exactly 60, we get 0. Bring up your decimal point. 5.5. So the top one was kind of hard to find, but then on the bottom, when we multiply by 5.5, anything times 1 is itself. So we're just going to get 5.5 feet. And this is the answer here. We don't have the entire proportion, just that bottom part that we were solving for. Number 2, the distance between two cities is 4 kilometers. How many meters apart are the two cities? So we need to figure out what is the conversion factor, the unit rate that's going to get us between kilometers and meters. So I know that 1 kilometer, so I'm putting it on the bottom so that it's a unit rate, is the same as 1,000 meters. And I am putting those labels in so that I don't get confused. So if we want to convert between here, we just had to know that conversion factor. All right, now they're 4 kilometers apart. Make sure you match your labels, put it on the bottom. To get between the 1 and the 4, I'm going to use times 4. Do the same thing on the top to keep the balance. And 1,000 times 4 is just 4,000 meters. So your answer is just the 4,000. Okay, number 3, a bag of flour weighs 5 pounds. The flour is priced per ounce. So we're going to be converting between ounces and pounds. I'm going to set up my proportion. I have 5 pounds, and we want to know the ounces. How many ounces? So 1 pound, and the abbreviation for pound is weird, it's LB. And 1 pound is the same as, and I'm going to check my reference sheet for this one, 16 ounces. Okay? Remember, we're always putting that 1 on the bottom, just a standard way to write it. All right, 5 pounds. So I'm going to go ahead and put the 5 pounds on the bottom so that it matches up. To get from the 1 to the 5, that's times 5. Do the same thing on the top to keep it balanced. 16 times 5. If you don't know it, you can just jot it down on the side. I got 80. So the answer is 80 ounces. If you want to write that out in full, that's how you would spell ounces. And for this last one here on the first page, Mount Everest is 8,848 meters tall. So I see meters. How many kilometers tall is Mount Everest? So we got to figure out meters to kilometers. We actually just did that in the above example. So write your 2 fractions. 1 kilometer is 1,000 meters. Notice that we're always writing the bigger unit. We're saying one of those is how many of the smaller unit, the smaller pieces. And in this case, we have 8,848 meters, and we need to figure out kilometers. Now, if you're really being tricky here with your math, you can think of something here to figure out this conversion factor, because we can use the idea of these 3 zeros to find that all we must have multiplied by is this exact number, but with a decimal point, 8.848. The reason is if you multiply something by 1,000, it's going to scooch the decimal 3 places to the right. So that's kind of a trick to figure that one out. If you couldn't see that, you're always welcome to do long division like we did in number 1. And then simple, 1 times 8.848 would be 8.848, meaning 8 and 848 thousandths kilometers. Instead of this new method with the multiplication in between, we're just going to convert all of these to the method that we've been studying. And that is the 2 equal fractions, the proportions. So I'm just going to, on my notes, I'm just coloring this out. On yours, you can scribble it out and write underneath, or, just write on a separate place on your notes. So we're still going to be using the unit rate to do these conversions. And we'll be representing the conversion with a unit rate. That's the same. Basically, write a fraction using the unit rate that converts between the 2 sets of units. And instead of doing this method, what we are going to do is use a proportion. This other method is okay. It's just I don't want it to be confusing. So for number 5, how many cups are in 8 quarts? What we need to know is how many cups are in 1 quart if we're going to try to do this. So I'm going to put 1 quart on the bottom, and I need to know how many cups make 1 quart. So if I were to pop over to my reference sheet, you're going to see that this is the place where we have the quarts and the cups, and it's not a direct conversion. So 1 quart is 2 pints, and one of those pints is 2 cups. So that means we need 2 cups and 2 more cups to make a total of 2 pints or 1 quart. So it's going to be 4 cups. Equal sign, new fraction for our proportion. We actually have 8 quarts. So I'm going to put 8 quarts on the bottom. And what I'm going to do now is multiply to get from the 1 to the 8. Same thing on the top, and I got 32 cups. So my answer is just the 32. All right, number 6, same method. So we're going to start by reading that it's centimeters in 12 meters. So I need a conversion that has 1 meter and how many centimeters that is. So I'm going to come back over here to my chart. And if I come down here, let's see. 1 meter is 100 centimeters. So 1 meter, 100 centimeters. Remember, we're always putting the 1 on the bottom. Okay, it wasn't 1 meter in our question, though. It was 12. So I'm going to put 12 here. And then I'm going to see, how do I change from a 1 to a 12? Well, that's just times 12. Same thing on the top. 100 times 12. That would just be 1,200 centimeters. So there's our final answer. Number 7. How many pounds are in 96 ounces? We did this one earlier with the pounds and ounces. It was 16 ounces is 1 pound. And in our problem, we have 96 ounces. So I have to put 96 ounces on the top to match. And now I'm going to say, how do I get from 16 to 96? If you're not sure, you can do long division. I'm just going to guess maybe 6 times. Yep. So it's going to be times 6. Do the same thing on the bottom. And I get 6 pounds. So there's our final answer. Okay, and number 8, how many yards are in 126 feet? Well, this one is one you should know. There are 3 feet in 1 yard. So for this one, you want to make sure that you know this fact. It's not one that is usually on a reference sheet. All right, and now instead of 3 feet, we have 126 feet. Not really sure how to get between there, so what I'm going to do is off to the side, I'm going to do a quick little long division, divide that out, and see what I get. When I did that, I got 42. Do the same thing on the bottom to keep the balance, and you'll get 42 yards, keeping that label from the bottom. So again, just a few more examples in case you'd like to copy them down, but we will not be talking through them in the video for the sake of time.